Sarah, you had a very, very rough start in life, but that rough start is what determined your passion and your mission in life. If you don't mind sharing with folks just kind of how you came into the world.
How I came into the world. I started, I think like the first big event in my life that impacted me was when I was 2, and of course I don't actually remember it, but my mom had abandoned us, and there was 3 girls, and my sister was 3, I was 2, and my younger sister was only, like 15 months old or something, or I was 6 months old probably. And she just left because she couldn't take it anymore. And for all of these years, up until recently, I didn't understand why.
Yeah.
And so then there are many, many events that happened. From my grandmother burnt my hands. That was the first abuse that I actually do remember. I can just, when I think about it, like I can just, it hurts my hands just
you
to
still
think
can
about
feel
it.
it.
Yes.
Yeah.
My husband said not to cry, but I'm sorry.
Don't apologize, because here's the deal. Your struggle is your strength. And people are going to learn in a minute what you did with that struggle. But that's how painful and how imprinted things like this are. And Debbie, with family, Arrow Family Ministries, you all do such great work with children, giving them hope and restoring them and putting them with their forever families and things. So this story, which should sound really bizarre, this should be the weirdest story we ever hear. It's all too common with some of the kids that you interface with.
Sadly, what brings a child into foster care is much of what Sarah describes. It's the abuse, the abandonment, and the neglect from what should have been a healthy attachment that got them into that. That produces trauma, and that trauma occurs and development stops.
Yeah.
So when you take a look at the life that Sarah has revealed here and the restoration that has taken place, it's amazing to watch and see. She has an incredible story of coming through and being an overcomer.
Yeah, which, I mean, you are such inspiration to so many people. We know, we talk about sex trafficking now. That's like the big news headline, which again, you've been on the front lines of for many, many years. It's existed for many, many years. That happened with you, from somebody who should have been the person to take care of you.
Yes, from beginning at age 4, I can remember the first time that anything sexual ever happened, and it was with my cousin, and he did end up in jail. And it continued throughout my life until I was 12 years old when I was raped. But in between there, my stepmother was actually the one who was perpetrating it herself. And then she would arrange for me to go to, of all people, my bus driver's house. And he would make arrangements with her to keep me on the bus after everybody else had gone off the bus. And so there was ongoing sexual abuse going on, and so until recently, I honestly didn't even know that it was called sex trafficking. I just thought it was sexual abuse, you know, and so it's been a big impact on who I am today.
And for a child who, in the beginning, everything was still upside down, when was your realization that, I know this is wrong? I know not everybody else is going through this.
Not until I was 12, when I was actually raped. And I went home. At that time, I no longer lived with my dad and my stepmom. At that time, I lived with my mom. And because she had come back into the picture. You have to kind of read the story to understand.
Yeah, in fact, your story is something you can read. It's in your book. There are a lot of details we'll leave out because you have it in this book. And I think sometimes for folks like you who can sit down and put pen to paper, it can be very painful, but it also can be very therapeutic. And you look at things in a different way. But before even getting to the book, there's something that you did that was really powerful as well. You started making a quilt.
I did. Well, it was an Afghan.
Okay, an Afghan, okay.
Yes, I was headed on a missions trip to Greece, and I was informed that we were going to be ministering to gypsies, and we were told to bring along any type of handmade items to give as gifts to them. And so I collected at my church. I asked people to donate, handmade items, and my one friend I don't know what she was thinking, but God knows. And so she came to my house. This is a really great story. She came to my house and she brought this huge garbage bag filled with yarn. And it was just yarn. And
Jacob, you're laughing because you remember this moment?
Yes, I specifically remember it because there was one ball of yarn that I actually snagged before she got to using it. I remember it.
it was probably orange.
Yeah, because you
The
love the
orange or
color
rainbow
orange.
colored.
Yeah, you love the color orange. All right, and so you're thinking, what am I going to do with this bag of yarn?
Right. And so I finally just dumped the bag of yarn on my floor, and I just looked at it, and in the bottom of the bag was this Afghan that was started, and it was only like this big. And
That was like a coaster at the time. As
well,
opposed to
it
a
was a
full
long
Afghan.
strip. Yeah, it was
Okay,
a long
yeah.
strip. But what really hurt was the fact that, again, my stepmother had taught me how to crochet.
Oh.
And I didn't want to do anything that she had taught me to do, even with it, if it was good.
Yeah.
But there was all this yarn, like you just can't let it go to waste. And so I just said a quick prayer, and I said, God, like if I can figure out this pattern, then I will crochet it. And so I sat down and I just did one stitch at a time, and on each stitch I literally just said a prayer. And through crocheting, I found so much healing just for the abuse that my stepmother had portrayed onto me. And yeah, and it turned out to be this huge double-sized Afghan by the time I was done with it, and I call it my love blanket. And it is now at a missionary's home in Greece where I went.
And that love blanket, and you also have, I think we can move on to call it your love book, right? Because that book teaches so many things: the power of forgiveness, building healthy relationships, investing in lives of others. That's the next point I want to get to. Okay. We have so many kids who are in foster care, and they have some great foster homes as well that they can be in, but we need more people to step up.
We absolutely do. There are over 500,000 children today in foster care. In the state of Texas, Child and Family Ministries.
Hopefully it's a family calling right now to say we're going to step up, right?
Exactly, and saying, call that number and say, I'll be happy to step up and make a difference, because that's what we need. We are also, for the first time in Texas, being allowed to create professional foster families. This will be where one parent stays home. We will actually pay them to have that professional capacity, and we will have the ability to bring in support and be able to clarify the very needs that these children have to help them overcome, to strengthen them and stabilize them with a permanent family, just like we have here.
And what you have done is exactly that. And it's so amazing to me that with all that you went through, that sometimes people go the opposite way. For you, you went full on saying, I need to give what I didn't get.
Right.
And how many kids have you fostered?
33.
33 kids.
Yeah, I think it's actually 35, but we stick with 33.
Yeah, I think you go, no, it's 35.
Because you didn't count Ethan and Isaiah.
Yeah,
Right.
And then you adopted, and
There's two of them. My older brother, we're not biological, but
but he's your brother.
Yeah.
So Jacob, I know there are people out there who have thought about it, and then they get busy and forget about it.
Right.
But what do you have to say to someone who's thinking, maybe we could open to our home to a child to foster and or adopt?
Well, basically what I think of it is, if, say you're in you want to have a child or something, but you can't, that's one of the best ways to do it. And if you can't decide, think about what they've been through. And obviously, usually, if you think you have it bad, somebody's already had it worse than you.
Yeah.
So,
What difference has she made in your life?
There's so many different things. It's so numerous, I can't even count them. I can't even say. There's a couple that I could probably think of. I don't even know my biological parents. So that's one thing. When she's told me about them, and I'm actually, when I think about it, I'm kind of happy I didn't meet them. So it's been a spiral about it when you think about it.
Yeah. All right.
You're quite remarkable, Jacob. We're so proud of you.
The reason why she's in town is for an event you all have coming up.
We were so happy. Sarah and Jacob are going to actually be helping to restore Harvey homes. And while they were here, the publicist said, your book is going to be released. Why not launch the book in Houston?
A journey back to restoration.
Exactly. And we have a program called Restoration Foster Care. And so when Sarah looked that up, we became affiliated together with this journey of restoration. We will have an event on September the 22nd at Memorial Drive Presbyterian Church from 10:30 in the morning to noon. And we're asking everybody to come, hear more of their story, learn ways that you can make a difference in a child, and make wishes come true.
Yeah. All right, we made one wish of yours come true because being here today, you satisfied something that you need for school, right?
Homeschooling,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And what was that?
The public speaking, and I'd like to add something to my thing. Like, even I don't know if you've heard of Compassion, but I went to Winter Jam, and not Winter Jam, Creation. Sorry, I screwed it up because I get them mixed up. We helped sponsor them, and they sponsored over 1,500 kids in less than a week, and I was just totally blown away by how many kids they sponsored. Like, see, they're all over the world. You never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
Right.
All right. Well, thank you so much because, like I said before, I know there are people at home who are watching and hurting, and I'm going to wrap up with just what you could say to someone who has that level of pain and anger and bitterness in them because of what was done to them, how they release that and are able to help someone else.
Wow. How to release it? I think the best way is to find that healthy relationships. And for me, it was a lot of prayer. It was a lot of inner healing and working with people who just were very strong and understood what that process looked like and just connecting. I mean, it really is about healthy relationships.
Yeah. And nothing wrong with you. Wrong things were done to you.
Correct.
Nothing wrong with
Right.
you. Again, the book is A Journey Back to Restoration. And Jacob, A+.